So hello everyone, welcome to Two Bye Guys. Buy one
Finally
bye
with
guy
two bye guys.
with Two Bye Guys. You're not here yet. I haven't introduced you.
Oh, sorry.
This is me. I'm Rob by myself, one bye guy, and we're bringing you something a little bit different today. Mostly because I'm lazy, and mostly because I didn't yet edit the interview that is supposed to air today. But also, there's another reason, which is that there is an election coming up. It is on my
What?
mind constantly. Yeah, I don't know if you heard, but today is
I've not.
October something. You're listening to this on October 21st, and there is an election on November 5th. I'll tell you all about it and explain what it is, RJ. But
Please do. I've never
we
heard of this.
it's on my mind so much, and it's really important, and it's especially important for the queer community, but also
Mhm.
everyone. And so I wanted to bring the bi stepfather of this podcast on to come and chat a little and discuss the upcoming election. So welcome back to Two Bi Guys,
Yes. Hi, hi,
RJ
hi, hi.
Aguiar. Hi.
Remember the 5th of November.
Yes,
I
indeed.
do think it's kind of awesome that like the UK ousted their Conservative Party on July 4th. So I love the idea that we can kind of tag the UK back being like, "Yep, let's
Yeah.
let's hand the Republicans their ass. Let's get an actual blue wave again."
It is really cool what happened over there and what happened in other countries too, where like there's been this defeat of fascism and
Mhm.
Trumpism across
Nationalism. So many isms.
nationalism. Yeah, all the isms are being defeated, but now it's our turn, and it's very. I have to say, with 2 weeks left, it's extremely nerve wracking because
Yeah.
we could follow in their footsteps, and that would be lovely.
Or we could screw
And
the pooch like we did in
and
2016.
yeah, and like right now, I don't know. And can I be honest? Like
Go.
this moment feels a little like it felt in 2016. Like, and that's
Yeah.
scaring me. It almost feels like, how can Trump win? It's insane that he could win. He can't win. And so
It's
I'm not
insane he won
really
the first
believing it.
time. It's
And
ins-
that's how and that was the mindset I had at that time. And
and
then he won.
you're talking to a guy who has his Hillary for America, love Trump's hate t-shirt on, mostly because I like we do need to remind people like what happens when we get too complacent, when we do treat it
Yeah.
as like, too much of a foregone conclusion. To be fair, the polls in those days had Hillary winning pretty easily. So I would say that this is a different situation because we do actually know how nail-bitingly close that we are.
Uh-huh.
Um, but as much as it should infuriate everybody listening to this podcast, how close we are, despite the absolute buffoonery coming out of the right. Like, this is where I get to regurgitate a lot of what my therapist has said to me about, like, listen, like, there's productive anxiety and then there's not productive anxiety. The productive anxiety
Ooh.
is what motivates you to do something. And
Yeah.
that is like democracy is not meant to be a spectator sport. They've literally done studies about how political hobbyism is actively harmful because it feels like you're doing something, but you're not actually doing anything.
Yeah.
So this is also
Well,
why, like, I kind of have had to start gatekeeping my political conversations with people because we all recognize what a dumpster fire we find ourselves in, right? Like, the question now is like, okay, well, what are you doing about it? Like,
yeah.
are you, I've got my monthly Act Blue donation set up already. Like, are you donating? Are you canvassing? Are you, door knocking? Are you digital canvassing? Like, this, we can't afford to sit on the sidelines. It's one of the reasons I get
Yeah.
so mad when people ask me why I'm so into politics. I'm like, I'm not. Like, you do policy or policy does you. And you
Right.
do.
We're all affected by these politics, whether we're participating or not. And then it comes up back to you. So your vote is your voice, as they say on
And
Survivor.
it's the beginning. It's the beginning. It's the beginning. It is the final exam of democracy, right? Like, you have a whole class. There's a whole semester of assignments and stuff that idea. So yeah, listening to people who complain about how, oh, I vote, but nothing changes. I'm like, yeah, that's like only sitting for final exams and expecting to get straight A's. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
got to put in the work the rest of the class, you know?
Yes. Well, and we'll talk in a minute about what happens after the election. I know you have
Oh, yeah.
thoughts about that. But
Mhm.
I like the last I mean, I always watch a lot of cable news. I'm just like slightly addicted to it. And
So you're a
there is
masochist.
yeah, yes, pretty much. I'm a sub top and I love just like being hit with the information. But I do run the risk, I feel sometimes watching it, of thinking I'm doing something by listening to all that.
Mhm.
And like in some sense, it's informing me depending on what you're listening to. And so
Mhm.
I want to be informed, but I also want to make sure that that's not what I'm doing in advance of this election is just watching TV. And
Mhm.
so part of why we're doing this is I want to share what we're doing and what people could be doing because we have 2 weeks left and like I really just have been wanting to do as much as I can. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sure I won't, but I did
What do
some.
you what do you mean? Wait.
Well, you could always I could always devote my entire life to making phone calls, and like I definitely haven't. I'm not on the phone constantly. Like I've signed up for phone banks, so I've been
Mhm.
doing some phone banks
Okay.
here and there. And I did postcards. I did the 200 postcards to swing states. I
Those are
wrote
fun. Those are actually kind of
that was
fun
fun.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's too late to do them now if you haven't done it already, but maybe you've done that. I had some people over, we wrote 100 postcards. I then had another stack of another 100 that I couldn't get people to come over, so I did them myself.
Oh,
Those went out in the
wow.
mail. That felt like a lot of effort. I sat and while watching MSNBC, I wrote a bunch of postcards to
There
Arizona.
you go. There you go. That's how you
So
earn
I
that's
did
how you
both.
earn your junk food. That's how you earn your treat. You know, it's kind of like with
Exactly.
fitness too. Like, okay, yeah, I do the extra 20 minutes on the treadmill so that I can indulge in the treat later on.
Yes, exactly. Both and it's very bisexual. Do the thing that makes me
Yeah,
worried, and then the thing that actually helps people. But you could do both.
it's true. Well,
uh,
the being involved though, I wonder if this is your experience too, but I found that when I can point to actionable things, so like postcards, like donations,
yeah,
and one of the other things that you can do is to just like talk to the people in your life, because like I mean in terms of the most effective messaging that actually influences people, it's not advertisements, it's not social media, it's people's actual social circles. So that's
yeah,
the other thing, is like you can, even if you're not formally digital canvassing or texting strangers or calling strangers, like if anything you actually potentially have more pull in your own social circles if you can convince
yeah.
someone in your
Right.
orbit that to vote who wasn't maybe planning on voting. Guess what, you just doubled yours. So like,
Exactly.
and the
Reach
best
out.
part is when you can point to actual actionable stuff that you're doing. I wonder if this resonates with you. That gives you permission to be able to check out and recharge without being like, ugh, right?
Yeah, yeah. I do definitely like. Okay, I've put in this effort. Like I can feel good about that and take care of myself as well and not just worry and overthink. But yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, reaching out to other people in your circle who
Yeah.
might not be as gung ho for democracy as we are is very important. My mom's cousin is like the closest Trump voter to me in my circle, and
Oh
I
my god,
had
I
a
envy it. I
conversation.
envy you.
Yeah.
I envy you. I've got so many Trumpers in
Oh yeah,
my.
I don't have many.
Uh-huh.
You do? Do you talk to them?
I well, in terms of the people in my like gene pool, no, not anymore. And that's
Mhm.
and that is, I mean, you do have to be able to recognize when you're being when you are engaged in productive conversation and when you're not. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Right. My this guy, my mom's cousin, I talked to him in 2020 and we had like a 45-minute call. I tried to sort of convince him and I realized there was nothing I could do and I just kind of said,
Hmm.
okay, like we shouldn't talk about this anymore and whatever. I hope you vote not for Trump, but he voted for Trump in 2020. And so I reached out to him the other day and asked if he would want to talk about it. But I said, if you've made your decision to vote for Trump, then there's no point in us talking, because I've made my
Yeah.
decision, and I don't want to just make myself angry or have an argument with him if he's made his decision. But if there's
Mhm.
anyone who maybe isn't, who isn't motivated to vote or is
Right.
undecided, it's mostly the not motivated to vote. I feel like that's the
Yes. That
biggest
is
thing
the
is like
most, yeah.
get everyone out there who's on the fence, because at this point, I don't know how much you can say to convince someone. Like, how do you not know
Right.
at this point? But
That is
it's a
that is
turnout game.
mostly, yeah, you're right. You're right in the sense of like when it comes to the convincing part, like are you going to be able to convince a Trump voter in your orbit? Probably not. But can you, and here's the other thing, like we've got this kind of lack of enthusiasm coming at us from both sides. Like we have the centrists, over on one side who are like kind of I don't know. And then you have a lot of people who are far left who are trying to be like, oh, the Democrats are supporting genocide, so they're no better than the Republicans. And it's like, I'm sorry, no.
Yeah,
Like I get it. I'm not the big don't let the t-shirt fool you. Like I'm not the biggest fan of the Democratic Party either. This is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But if we want to get ourselves out of this stalemate,
yeah,
we have to get our asses in gear, because part of why we have to be so permissive with the one party who doesn't want to take our rights away is because we're still stuck in this stalemate with with the architects of Project 2025.
yeah,
So yeah, of course, when that's the other alternative, yeah, compromise is going to be absolutely fucking infuriating. But at the same time, like ideological purity doesn't win elections.
right.
So, you
I,
know,
I think it's really important you brought that up, because that is something I've experienced in my circles. Like
yeah.
there are more liberal people in my life who don't want to vote for Democrats because of Israel and Gaza or other
Mhm.
progressive issues that like they think Democrats aren't progressive enough on. There are more of those people in my life than Trump voters, and it does stress me out that, because like on the one hand I get the concerns and I
Yeah.
share the concerns, and
Uh-huh.
on the other hand, like unlike many things we talk about on this podcast, we are about to be faced with a very binary choice. It is one of the few things in life that is truly binary, and that there is no spectrum about it. There may be a couple other names on the ballot, but they are irrelevant. This is a binary choice of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. It
For
is
now. For
the
now.
most for
For
just
now.
November 5th, for this one thing you do, which is choose one of them. It's binary. So
And if you want the slightest chance to change things for the better, you have to vote Kamala, because
yeah,
if things sway to Trump, guess what? Our chances of reforming anything are done. Are
right.
absolutely done. So like it just goes to show how much like checking out the chances of checking out of the process, reforming the process are non-existent. Like
Right.
you checking out and being cynical, I've said all the time, like cynicism is emotional laziness, it's not wisdom, right? So
Mm,
you choosing to check out and choosing not to invest emotionally, sure, it might protect your ego, but then it leaves the rest
right.
of us out in the cold. And so
Right.
like anything that dissatisfies you about this process is all the more of a reason for you to participate more, because
Yeah.
this is what the GOP and the Trumpers, and specifically like starting with like the Tea Party movement, they have had figured out actually for 20 years now, almost better than we have, which is, oh, if you don't like something, change it. You run for local office, you run for the county election boards, affect change in your neighborhood, and then in aggregate it equates to a truly grassroots sort of influence effort. Mind you, they also this is happening in rural America, which is fertile ground for their ideology anyway. But the point being that like they are miles ahead of us on this in terms
Yeah.
of the being I think Roe v. Wade's a perfect example, because they could have just treated that as, well, shit, we lost, at the Supreme Court level. But no, they fucking, I mean, having a bunch of billionaires behind you helps. But the point is, like, there was a sustained effort on that side to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And guess what? They successfully rolled back a human right, which has never happened in this country's history.
Right.
So if we want to be the answer to that, we have to get as involved. And I've got good news for you guys. We outnumber them.
Yeah.
Like, that's the
We
like
all
the
vote.
vast.
We all vote.
Well, no, we don't. That's the fucking
Well,
problem.
if we did, right, if we all vote, we would win.
You know, that when it comes, this is the good news. This is the really, really, really good news. This is the vast majority of the American public knows what needs to be done and is supportive of it getting done. Issues that across the board, across, you know, both parties that have majority support: Medicare for all, expanding Social Security, doubling the minimum wage, breaking up big banks, progressive taxation, gun control, abortion access, climate change response, reforming the Supreme Court. These are all things that a majority of Americans want.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? The problem is corporate money. And so we have
Yeah.
to be, do I like it? No, but we have to organize that much more
Right.
to counteract that, which I think brings
Well,
us then to, like, okay, so we vote for Kamala, then what?
right. And okay, I want to get to that in a second, but
Okay.
because this leads into that. Yes, totally. But it's also, I just want to say, like, Trump is a fascist. Like,
Mm,
all of these issues are so important. And like, we're faced with the choice of like fascist, like Mark Milley, his chairman of the Joint Chiefs,
yeah.
says he's a literal fascist. And
And
many other people who worked with him are scared of what he will do and that the
yeah.
democracy may fall apart. And so, if you want to have any ability to continue making progress on any of the issues you just mentioned, we can't have a fascist leader because we
And
won't then have a democracy and we won't
yeah.
be able to do anything.
And
So it's
can we just thank every single god too that Trump is such a fucking buffoon and such a fucking, like, caricature cartoon character? Because imagine how
yeah, because
much
if it's
more
JD
difficult.
Vance,
Yeah, imagine if it's a JD Vance or it's someone who can, or a Ron DeSantis who can actually string words together
yeah,
that we were up
yeah,
against. How fucked would we be? Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and also, by the way, on like Israel and got like other progressive issues that like I feel like you and I are on board with, and like
Mm,
I've been critical of Israel. I'm Jewish, like I'm questioning my Zionism and what does it mean, and if this is the Israel that we're fighting for, like
mhm,
why it's not this is it's a genocide that's happening, and what the government is doing is not good. And if you think all of that,
mhm.
Trump in office will make it much worse. There will be
Exactly. And
no chance of it getting better with Trump in office. It
on
will
yeah.
only be worse.
Yeah, on what planet, in what galaxy, in what universe would Trump be better for the people of Gaza than Kamala?
Yeah.
My guess is
Uh,
0.0000.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so, but then that leads into, so what, I mean, vote, we have to vote. We have to do things. By the way, what else are you doing in advance of the election? And then we'll get to after, like,
So, like I
anything
said,
else you want to
so we
share?
did. So I got my postcards. I went to a Love or Leave It live show, and they were
Ooh,
like handing out the, yeah. And it was a little like arts and crafts kit too, which actually made it like, I was like, oh, this was a fun little
fun.
craft project, especially because, like, a lot of, especially when you're sending it to, like, certain demographics of swing state voters, they actually appreciate it when you take the little bit of extra time, which I like. Like I said, I have my recurring Act Blue donation. I think I would say that's probably my biggest contribution, in the sense of, like, that fund specifically is designed to aggregate money across multiple down ballot races across the country, because we, let's face it, need all
We
three
need that too.
houses. Yeah, like, we need both houses of Congress and the presidency if we want anything to have a hope of getting done. Um, and then, yeah, like, a lot of it is also just making sure that everybody in my orbit is like, I'm like, hey, do you want me to send you the progressive voter guide that I've been following? Do you want, like, you have any? Because that's the other thing too, is it's not just about motivating people to vote. It's also about kind of, if you have the means to be, like, the kind of go-to person in your, or of even people who want to vote, like, if you vote in, it's just, being the friend that you can ask non-judgmentally, like, hey, which ballot proposition is the one we're supposed to vote yes on, which is the one we're supposed to, like, making sure that you're not
Yeah.
just, it's not just about showing up, it's about coming correct.
Yeah.
um
Right.
is the big thing. So I like in between all of I think between those activities, plus, still having to work and be a human, and
Yeah.
also, let's face it, it's Halloween, aka gay Christmas. So I think between all of those things, I'm doing enough, because it's not a matter of one or two people solving it for everybody. It's everybody. If the beauty is also, if we all do a little bit,
Yeah.
things get done.
Right. The goal of this is that you right. It's not like everybody has to reorganize their entire lives for
No.
2 weeks. It's just like we got 2 weeks left. Let's focus on this. Give it a little bit of effort.
Yeah,
Add it into your daily life. Do what you can, because after
exactly.
the next 2 weeks, there's nothing we can do for a
Yeah,
while.
one
Well,
percent is infinitely more than zero.
yeah. And so I also the only other things I would add are stamps are more expensive than I thought. So I sent out those 200 postcards. I didn't realize I would be making such a financial contribution to the cause, but that was part of it. I was supporting the post office as well as getting the postcards,
Yeah,
so that was one thing. I've also been donating through Act Blue and to some
yeah.
different candidate races in certain swing states. And then the other thing is everyone should make a plan to vote. I have my
Oh yeah.
ballot. It's somewhere over. Oh, I put it over there because it's off the table. But the everyone needs to make sure you set aside some time. Mine looks just like that. Set aside some time to fill out the ballot, because you're not just voting for president. You're voting for all the down ballot races. In LA, we have a ton of ballot initiatives. Some
Mm-hmm.
of them I've heard of, many of them I don't know anything about, and I need a few days to like go through the voter guides, read what the ballot measures are, and make
Yeah.
decisions. So
And
set
even, yeah,
aside some time
even
for that.
I've already filled this out. I'm still remembering, like, was it supposed to be, was it no on 33 and yes on 34? Like, it's
And I get
set
all
up to
these
be.
mailings. It's difficult to remember. So you got to get your guides out, follow the people who you trust and see what
Mm-hmm.
they say, make your own decision, and then mail it back or drop it in a box in advance. My goal is to do it by Friday of this week.
Yes, good, very, very, very good. I always use the same ballot box that's near me, so that's nice. Public
Yeah,
libraries are always
me too.
typically a really great. Yep, public
I'm going to
libraries are
drop
great.
mine at the Burbank Public Library, which I just
There we
became a
go.
member of recently.
But then here's the other thing: is this is like making sure that your correct down ballot is also helps answer the question of what next, right?
Yeah.
Because,
Okay. Go on.
if you are tired of saving democracy every 4 years, or even 2 years, with midterms and
Yeah.
congressional elections, then okay, that means we're gonna have to make some changes. We're gonna have to make some reforms to our electoral process. And so, like, again, luckily, this is not the problems we're up against are actually a lot newer than you think. Citizens United was decided in '03, I think.
Yeah.
So, and that was, I mean, there was a Duke University study that cited, like, that ruling specifically. I think it was Duke. There was a study done basically comparing popular opinion on certain issues versus legislation that was passed. And after Citizens United, which, allowed for unlimited dark corporate PAC money in politics, the correlation between popular opinion on issues and legislation that was actually passed, negligible. So, the so if we're making the project 2025 of our the real project 2025 that we need to be kind of implementing on a grassroots level, is reforming this process, getting money out of politics,
Yeah.
and then maybe, changing electoral rules to make it so that we don't have to only, choose between two parties. Ranked choice voting, anybody?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you want
Where ranked
to.
choice voting has been implemented, it's really worked very well and given voters much more actual choice in the matter.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's not perfect. Eric Adams, I believe, was chosen by a ranked choice election, but this is also why
True.
you need to get money out of politics. This is
Uh-huh.
like, the problem. It's not that democracy. The problem, or one of the problems, especially with people our age and younger, is that the age of democracy working was kind of before we came online as adults. So we don't really have, like, what I mean? We don't really have that many
Yeah.
memories of like being able to participate in this democracy of ours because, we came kind of after, after that sort of mess has started.
First big political memory I have is Al Gore losing, even though he won,
Hmm.
and the Supreme Court deciding that he lost.
And I'm from Florida, so
Uh
but
huh.
that's okay. Yeah. So, but right there, though, if we're there are solutions to all of these issues. There is the interstate electoral compact. I'm butchering the name of it, but there's
Is that the one
already
where the popular vote would decide it, right?
the would decide the and effectively render the electoral. So this is again, this is the light at the end of the tunnel for everybody. Is
Yeah.
that there are solutions in place
Right.
already. There are nonprofits trying to organize around this, and we have the capacity, especially because elections are administered at a state and local level. We have so much power to affect change in terms of reforming the process on our own. Fuck
Yeah.
legislation, fuck the presidency. This is how we make the
Right.
process more small d democratic.
Right. A lot of those things too, like you actually can move it forward pretty quickly on a local level and then it starts to catch on. Like that is
Hmm.
you've started to see stuff like ranked choice voting more in the last few years. And there's a I'm blanking on it, but there's a organization I like that is interested in all those small d democratic reforms
Yeah, like
because the
vote
goal
fair
should
vote or something, I believe is. I can try to
yeah.
look them up.
There's another one that I'm blanking on, but the goal should be, right, like democracy. And that's what we're preserving with this big election and not letting Trump in. But in a bigger sense, it's like what we want is that gap to narrow between what the people want and what gets implemented. And right now
Right.
they're very far apart because of all these undemocratic things in our voting system. And it would be great to get rid of those things
Yeah,
beyond
I mean
just the
it's
presidential election.
we are swimming upstream on this. I do want to sort of
Yeah,
recognize that this is a
yeah,
challenging process that we are up against. One of the things that makes American democracy quote unquote exceptional is not its efficacy. It's actually just it was in many ways the first Western democracy, the first sort of democratic experiment that plenty of other countries observed and then kind of learned from our mistakes.
uh-huh,
So, nowhere else in the developed world do we have such a wide, such a large and diverse population represented by so few political parties. So,
yeah,
we
yeah,
do. It is gonna require a bit of imagination to be able to sort of, and it's going to require a lot of like actual substantive discourse for us to kind of figure out what the best course of action is moving forward. But again, this the all that points back to the only way we can have an electoral process and a democratic process that actually works for people is for us to participate more.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
That is the only
yeah,
solution.
yeah. So we have 2 weeks to participate before this very big milestone, but then that
Yeah.
is not the end. There's a lot more participation that must happen after. That's not just about who is the president, but about a lot of other things. Any thoughts on why this election or just like being engaged in this stuff is important for the bi community specifically, or how do we factor into this if we do? What do you think?
Oh, please. Of course, like we're queer, like trans rights are literally like under threat right now. And actually, I mean, even in my former home state, and I say former home state just cuz like there are already laws on the books that discriminate not just against trans people, but against like people like me who maybe cisgender but are still queer.
Uh huh. Yeah.
The one of the there's a book I wrote an essay for that was published, and it's like banned in my high school library now because
Oh,
it's about queer male identity. And so it's like the all the work that I've done in my career up until this point to try to like destigmatize by identity and ensure that the next little RJ doesn't have to go through what I like all of that gets
yeah.
undone you know
Yeah.
on not at the back, or all that gets undone if the wrong people are in charge.
Yeah,
So
yeah, totally. I mean, I agree. Like the queer community is always
Mm,
sort of a scapegoat, especially the trans community, but like all of
yeah.
us, and especially in this election. And there's also a lot of stuff happening with this, with Trump and Vance in particular, in regards to masculinity and like the gender gap and the young male
Mhm.
impulse to be, upset with your place in the world and then gravitate toward Trumpiness. And like, I just think
Mhm.
there's a place for all types of masculinity under every umbrella. And like, I don't know, the connections I've made with other people are part of what gives me hope about where to go in this politics. Like, I wonder if you just surveyed by people who they'd be voting for. I'd expect it would lean Democratic, but it probably
Mhm.
wouldn't be all. But among men, and like there's something about masculinity in this election that's a little bit scary, but also I'm hoping to see. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that many of us vote
I
Democratic.
like Walls for that reason though, because I
Yeah.
what's so great about Walls is he presents a non-toxic version of heteromasculinity
Yeah.
and leans toward the type of alpha that actually exists in nature. Because these the manosphere types love to talk about like an alpha wolf. Alpha wolves don't exist. They don't exist.
Uh-huh.
The wolf packs follow genealogical hierarchies. You want to know what animal groups do have alpha males? Apes.
Yeah.
Like, and you want to know who typically chooses the alpha male? The alpha female. And so you know about 1/3 of alpha males in primate social groups are despotic, are rule with an iron fist,
Mm.
and almost all of them get murdered violently in
Uh-huh.
the end.
Yeah.
2/3, like the true successful alpha males in nature, are the ones that are patriarchal in a loving way, in a supportive way, in
Hmm.
a way that protects the most vulnerable among the group, in a way
Yeah.
that is about providing and being more selfless and being more altruistically minded. Like, this is
Yeah.
hopefully the version of masculinity, the non-toxic version, that we can as queer or masculine identified folks across the sexuality spectrum. Like, this is the impulse that we really need to, as I say, as there's apparently motorcycle engines revving behind me.
Perfect.
They're
Perfect.
like, fuck yeah, yeah, this is the type of masculinity that
Yeah.
we need to start encouraging. Because
Agree.
there isn't
Agree.
there does not have to be something inherently toxic about masculinity if it's
Yeah.
used for the right ends.
Yeah, totally. I love seeing Tim Walz as an example of that. It's really, he's
Mm.
so fun and really smart, and like he makes sense. And even Doug Emhoff is a nice example of like of positive non-toxic
Doug
masculinity.
is a nerd, and that's what I like about him. Like,
He
which,
would be
like,
the
that's
best.
like, put nerds in politics again. Like, why did
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
want the bookworm to be the one making policy. Like, why? Like,
Totally. I
make
agree.
politics nerdy
Nerdy
and
again.
boring again. Yeah.
Make America nerdy again.
Fuck
Yeah.
yeah.
No. Yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts? Final thoughts?
I would imagine you would want to put some sort of donation link
Good
in the
idea.
show notes. Yeah, yeah. Look at me.
We'll
Look at me
put
doing your
I'll put
job.
I'll put we'll put a donation link in the show notes.
Okay.
We'll put a few things in there.
Yeah,
Maybe there's some opportunities to volunteer in the last few days. We'll check the show
absolutely.
notes. We'll put some stuff there. Share with us what kind of masculinity that you like,
I'm
and share with
more
us your
partial to
plan to
cowboys
vote.
myself. No.
Yeah, it's super important.
I have a one last little note, or one last little sort
Please.
of parting message. I get one thing that really bothers me is when people are like, "I'm just not excited to vote."
Mm,
Okay, are you excited to go to jury duty? Like, are you excited to pay your taxes? No, but you do it because
yeah,
we need that to happen for society to function.
yeah. Yeah,
Like,
Please, we're
It's the
begging you.
minimum.
It's
Like,
it's not super fun to fill out the ballot. It's like it is some work, but it's work
yeah,
that is so important, and it will affect you whether you think it does or not, or see the
I'm
direct connection or not.
I'm not passionate about brushing my teeth or wiping my ass, but I do it.
That's
You
because you
know,
don't have you need one of those nice bidets, and then you'll be passionate
then
about
I'd be very passionate about
cleaning your
cleaning my
ass.
ass. No,
Yeah,
but the
I
point that this is, it's not about being excited. It's about
yeah
like doing the work.
yeah. It's
That's
important.
it. That's the end of it. Like I have not. I think I've been excited to vote in exactly one election in my entire lifetime because I got to participate in Barack Obama's first
Obama.
president. Yeah, that was exciting. Okay,
Yeah
that was
yeah
cool. It was also my first
yeah
time. So
yeah. I agree. Like, do it whether it's exciting or not. And I'm very nervous. And on the day after, we'll see how we feel. But I am to be honest. There is something kind of exciting about Kamala potentially being the first African American and
first
woman
woman,
president.
period.
Like first woman. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, they're gonna make coins of
that,
this woman. Hopefully,
I think
cross your
it's
fingers and toes.
I think it's hard to imagine how exciting it will be because I'm so nervous it won't happen, but it'll be pretty exciting if it happens.
Yeah, I
I'll be
mean,
I'll be excited.
let that hypothetical moment of relief and celebration and dare I say like joy. Uh, let
I'm
that,
yes.
imagine how good it's going to feel. Imagine how good it's going to feel, not just especially because you didn't leave it to chance,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Specifically because you participated, however small, whatever crumb of participation you were able to scrape up from your life. Imagine how much better that
Yeah.
that day, night, whenever that announcement is going to feel, knowing that you helped
If you
make
were
it
part of it.
possible.
Yep. Yep. Perfect note to end on. I'm hesitant to feel that joy right now or think about it too much, but you're absolutely right. If we get to feel it on in a couple weeks, it will be even more satisfying to know we all
Yeah.
did our part.
Like when Joe won in 2020, we remember, right? Like there was jubilation in the freaking streets. It was like the end of Return
Yeah.
of the Jedi for Joe, who we, as we all know, the the enthusiasm did not last long. Imagine how much better it's going to be with Kamala. It's
Yeah.
including and especially because you know that this woman now has experience with all three branches of government, you know?
Yeah.
Like
She'll be great. She'll be
I've
great.
never seen anyone more qualified. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, everyone go out and vote. Do what you can. We'll talk about it on the other side because there's more work on the other side,
This is
one
very
way or
true.
another. Hopefully, it'll be a certain kind of work and not a other kind of work, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Either way, there's work to
One
do.
foot in front of the other.
And thank you for swinging by, RJ, the bi stepfather of two bi guys, bi one bi
Are you
guy. Great
kidding?
to see
He's
you.
like, do you want to come by and share opinions? I'm like, boy, do I.
I'll see you again next season, hopefully.
Yeah, we're by all the time. So let's expand but beyond just bi in theory. Let's be bi in the world.
Woo. Be bye. All right. Bye bye. Two Bi Guys by One Bi Guy is produced and edited by me, Robert Brooks Cohen, and it was created by me and Alex Boyd. Our new logo art is by Caitlin Weinman. Our music is by Ross Mincer. To help support this podcast, visit patreon.com/Robert Brooks Cohen. You get early access, bonus content, and full video episodes. Visit robertbrookscohen.com to learn more about my coaching, my book, and my stand-up comedy. And thanks for listening to Two Bi Guys by One Bi Guy.